Hello, my Cancer friends. This is Dr. Shiny with a reading for the month of March for Cancer. And if you have not already done so, please check out my introductory videos where I explain a little bit how I approach tarot readings and what you can hope to get out of these and that kind of thing. So I'll get straight into your reading today. Your current situation is the Ace of Cups. So the Ace of Cups is about a opportunity for you to achieve a sense of emotional fulfillment, of deep emotional fulfillment, almost divine, like a peace that surpasses understanding, as the Bible would call it, or that kind of thing. This is something that it is very, very much up to you to reach out and take. It's about making a decision to see things a specific way. It indicates that your current lack of emotional fulfillment has been because your eyes are focused on something else, on perhaps the wrong aspect of your reality, or what you have, or the situation you've landed in. There's always this energy available no matter where you are. This card showing up in your reading simply tells you that it's time to look at it, to focus at it, to take out and grab that emotional fulfillment because you need it. It's something that's, it's time for it to come. It's time for you to feel at peace again and not struggle all the time. Now, what's crossing you or what's influencing you in this situation is the Page of Swords. And this is a character who has a very young and sort of a lot of initiative, a lot of energy, a drive, very intellectual, always wants to figure things out. This could be like a little child who's constantly asking questions or that kind of thing, annoying, but a bright child, not, so it's like somebody who's very much concerned with figuring things out, and this is crossing you, so it's almost as if there's this sense of not resentment, resignation or numbness in you that this person is sort of challenging or is asking you to overcome. And it may be that you need to overcome that apathy or just numbness so that you can be a support for this individual. This might be like a family member or somebody close to you, or it could be an aspect of yourself which is like on the verge of dying out and really needs to be revived. Because a lot of us sort of have this false sense that as you grow older, you just have to leave some things behind as just childlike matters or something like that. But very often it's not about leaving them behind or killing those aspects of ourselves. It's about finding a way to get them to grow and to mature into different versions of what they were in the past. Well, the past, or what led you to this situation, is the moon. And this suggests that this has, in a way, a very similar connotation to the devil, except that the desired outcome is not the same as the devil. So the moon is about intuition, or the unconscious mind, and how I like to think of it as the way that the world around you looks as the result of how your mentality is. So you can enter a situation, and if you're in the healthy, right mindset, it can look one way. But if you're in the wrong, like victim mindset, that's buying into illusion, then it'll look a completely different way, and it'll look scary or something like that. So what this is, and this being in your past, what this suggests is that you went through a lot of struggles and everything, and you're maybe through them right now. You're actually in a fairly healthy, stable place or environment. But because you are sort of incorrectly filing away the events of the past and like what happened to you, and you're stuck in this sort of like victim mentality, it's preventing you from achieving happiness in the present, because you're still essentially crying over spilled milk or something like that, when there's a positive hidden somewhere in that spilled milk that you are not taking into consideration, like perhaps that you were able to learn some hard lessons so that you can give them to some of your young family members, and the bond that will be created when they can come to you and trust that you're going to give them a word of wisdom or something that really helps them on their journey is what is meant to sort of like, you know, strengthen the bond of family and friendship and love. And being that the Ace of Cups is your current situation, the whole thing here is in the realm of love. That's the current challenge here. Now, your future is the Two of Coins, and this is what sort of correct integration of the lesson that's crossing you will lead to. And it's like an ease of mobility. So, you know, first of all, let me say the foundation of your situation is the Ten of Wands. And the Ten of Wands is about over encumberment. So, in other words, what's happening here is because you've like sort of coded your past a little bit incorrectly, or not incorrectly, there's no incorrect, but because you've coded your past in such a way that you feel that you're a victim and powerless, it is so in your current environment. You are sort of the victim and powerless because you are accepting that that's the position that your past and the things that you've done have put you in. But you don't have to accept that. So if you refuse to accept that reality and instead take advice, sort of learn from this young energy of the Page of Swords, and sort of like cut the BS, you know, like just be honest about what your situation is and start to be grateful for the things that you have that are still there. You know, like you may feel this paranoia that you've got this health problem or something like that, but keep in mind that like you're still alive. So if something is really like trying to get you or trying to bring you down, it's not managed to do it yet. And so really it's just the fact that you're getting perhaps tired of fighting this fight, that you're letting your guard down, but you really don't have to. What you'll find is that if you sort of like face your fear and look at it for what it really is, and be honest with what you've done and how you view yourself as a failure and that kind of thing, acceptance sort of changes the nature of things. So when you accept something that you haven't wanted to accept for a long time, or when you've been running from a particular realization and you finally just let it in, a lot of times it immediately there's sort of a sting, there's like a heartbreak that some people just, you know, break down crying for a minute, but after that you feel this incredible release and a lot more energy. It doesn't kill you, believe it or not, to sit down and cry for a little while, and the emotional release just gives you this newfound sense of empowerment and energy, which then you are able to use to sort of juggle the interests of yourself and others and become that mature, experienced individual who's there to serve as a guide and a leader to others. And when you do that, it's fulfilling your role, which brings you this sense of joy and satisfaction and fulfillment that you've been looking for. It's not about being number one or getting to the top. Uh, Anyone can do that, but anyone who's trying to do that is missing the point of happiness. We'll put it that way. So you've already got past. You suppose that you learned those lessons, and so now it's just about remembering what this is all about. That you're just trying to be happy. It's not about being right or like fixing the world or something like that. It's about being a source of goodness for those around you, that kind of thing. And what's on your mind is, or the crowning thoughts is the Five of Wands. Um, and this is about sort of like creative conflict. So I think the important thing is you may be thinking like there's a lot of, you know, people who are out to get you or have beat you down, or you really do feel like a victim, but keep in mind that it's all creative conflict. So in other words, it's all just matters of opinions on the best way to get through things. And some people care a lot more about imposing those wills and ideas on the world around them than others do. And some people get more caught up in the game of my way is best than they do of what way is best. You know what I mean? So you should be arguing with others to figure out really what the correct way of going forward is, not to assert your knowledge that you know the correct way. And that's something that a lot of people miss. It's so easy to miss that and to forget that you're sort of in the same, we're all in the same boat, you know, like ultimately the goal is to love everyone, is to, you know, be able to appreciate and understand everyone. And so if you get hung up in the conflict, you start to dehumanize other people, and none of that leads to a favorable outcome, or none of that leads to the most favorable outcome, which is a positive on both sides. Um, which is, you know, there's times and places for everything, for like battles and wars and things like that. But I get the idea that your challenges are really sort of all behind you, and you're just believing that same old illusion that you're in this like life or death battle, and it's causing you the misery. But you don't have to be in that place anymore. You can assume this understanding, this wise perspective of everything happens for a reason, and people are learning through hardship and things like that, and it's your responsibility to just sort of be there for them and share with them the things that have happened in your past. You know what I mean? Share with them how you went through situations and the lessons that you learned, and don't try to then attach your personal will for other people's lives to that. Just leave it at, this is what, or this is how I handled it, this is how I feel about the situation. And if you're able to do that, you'll find that your connections open up quite a bit with the people that you love, and you won't feel so down, or you'll have that sense of emotional fulfillment that you're looking for. And your advice for the current situation is the Three of Swords. And the Three of Swords is, it's interesting, it's the second time I've got this for the advice in the readings so far. It's an indication that even though some realizations will give you this sense of heartbreak, the sense of pain, you know, you're going to get positives out the tail end of that. You know what I mean? Struggles, what doesn't kill you makes you stronger, that kind of thing. So like a painful emotional thought, you know, I know it's tempting to say, well, I'm tired and I've been doing this for so long, I've been strong for so long, but keep in mind, maybe this isn't about being strong. Maybe this is about being broken. This is about the humbleness that comes with, you know, going through a long struggle, and then at the end just throwing your hands up and saying, this is impossible, I can't do this anymore, you know, and like just letting the tears, the heartbreak in, because what comes as the result of that, as the result of just, you know, going to the people who you've been really hard-headed with and just being like, you know what, I'm sorry, I'm in a bad way, and like I'm trying to get better, you know, I'm trying to do the best that I can. And just reaching out to a person with that sort of honesty and openness and humbleness, sometimes they'll present you with an opportunity that's like totally out of the blue to you. And it has a way of like propelling you down the path of light, the path of like happiness and fulfillment. Because really that's what love is about, you know, like helping each other and being there for each other, and good thoughts, good feelings, and that kind of thing. And like understanding the other person's position is really what it's about. One of my favorite quotes is that to understand everything is to love everything. I don't even know where that came from, but I always think about it. Your current environment is the Tower, and the Tower is about sort of institutions or structures that are sort of built with the inevitable realization that they will fall. So, you know, I used to think about this when I was a kid in a more abstract way. When people build these like huge towers in like the middle of the city, I wonder how much thought goes into what's going to happen near the end of the structure's life like that. You know, I mean, do they build these things with no plan of how they're going to come down, how they're going to demolish them? or do they have sort of these contingencies and designs already built in? And uh, unfortunately, I'm not sure that there are really, really well established procedures in that way. But to following the metaphor, in our lives, sometimes we build up these structures, these sort of temporary structures, forgetting that they are temporary, that they will fade away. Maybe we put all of our eggs into one basket financially, or we try to achieve like fame or success, right? And those things can be valuable tools. Fame and success, they can be valuable tools, but they're not the goal itself. If you're chasing the applause and the fame, you're never going to fill that hole. It's that you have to find a way to utilize that influence to really get your thoughts and dreams out there into the world. And that's sort of the basis for fulfillment, is learning to take all these thoughts, these negative energies, the victimization, and turn it into a power, turn it into something that you can use to change the world. And so your environment right now is suggesting that all these institutions and like the comfort that you feel is very fleeting. It's very you think you're doing the right thing, you think that you're safe, but in reality you're just trying to make yourself feel safe. And so in other words, like, is it safer to have a ton of policemen, or is it safer to not need policemen? You know what I mean? Like, that's sort of the idea that you're going for. That's the paradigm that you're stuck in a little bit. Is you think that you can control the situation, but in reality you can't control everything. So it's prudent to, instead of trying to control everything, to establish relationships of trust to where you don't have to worry about it so much. You know what I mean? So anyway, in your fears card, you have the Queen of Cups. And this is a person who is fully in touch with her emotions. And I feel like this is in your fears card because in your past you have been sort of burned. You've been a person who did follow your intuition and did the right thing, followed the concepts of love and all this, and you feel as though it didn't necessarily work out for you. And I feel as though that's, again, sort of the result of improper coding of things that happen to you. Negatives have given you this sense of victimization because you failed to learn the lesson that they were trying to teach you. You know what I mean? So go back to these heartaches, go back to these pains that have occurred in your past and face them. And just know that, this has been a long time now. It's not going to really do you physical damage to go back and think about why it is that you're so upset about something that happened in the past. It may give you this momentary burst of negative feelings like loneliness or heartache, pain. But what comes on the other side of that is the release, is the understanding and the lesson that comes with it. So don't be afraid to get back in touch with your emotions. You were a very sensitive person, and this situation has sort of jaded you a little bit. So that's going to block you from your joy and your peace, which, don't accept that. Don't accept just hiding in a box and waiting for something better to come along. Like, take your power back, follow your intuition, and sort of like, push the negative illusion, the devil, out. I mean, it's in your power. He's only afflicting you as long as you allow him to. Okay? So the overall message is the Ten of Swords, which kind of follows suit here. This is sort of like the end of cycles. Like, everything has essentially come crashing down already. The battle's already lost, unfortunately, and that's because what you set out to achieve may not have been the actual thing that your heart desired. It was just sort of this facsimile that was placed in front of you that was supposed to draw you to a future where you could be happy. But because sometimes we can't let go of the specific future or vision that we have in our mind, we get really hurt and upset when we aren't allowed to achieve that thing specifically. It feels like it's just out of reach, and it's always going to be just out of reach. And it's supposed to, because you're essentially like still riding the subway instead of getting off at the station that you're supposed to get off at. So you just get back, you just stay on the train, and it goes around and around and around, and you're living off of the medicine sort of, rather than you're using it as a diet rather than a medicine, you know. And once you sort of shift your perspective and understand that now there's a different version of you that is required, there's something else that's being asked of you, then your sense of joy and fulfillment will come back, because you'll be fulfilling your role again rather than clinging to that old role that you had in your mind. So very interesting reading for you, my Cancer friends. Please let me know what you think in the comments, and I will see you guys next month. Bye-bye.